Before I show you what I picked out to start my prayer pillow, I wanted to show you that I got Hadley's pillow done for her birthday, and of course it has the yo-yo on there. I kind of took some poetic license with Leela's pattern. I think that's how you say her name. Here, let me show you. I did do that trim, that little ribbon. Turned out exactly the way I wanted it to. This is actually the back of the pillow. And I put my label on and did my big yo-yo. And I think the colors turned out good to blend with the front, since her favorite color used to be like this bluish green, and now this year it's pink. So there's Hadley's pillow, all done for her. And then the pillow that I'm gonna start, here's my pillow form. And that is one that is from Amazon. I think it's called Comfy Down. I believe this one's about a 15 by 20 or 16 by 20. And it is going to go on my chair, which is all set up for stitching for September sampler. Sampler September? Anyway, there's the itchy pillow. And then the one that has the K all-in buttons. So as I lean on that one, you know, I don't want to ruin the buttons and ruin it. So a lot of times I have it backwards. And then this is the one that's really itchy. So my plan is to make the prayer pillow that I can have there, and then grab it and kind of set it on my lap and use it for when I do my reading and my stitching. That's where I keep everything. And my stitching. And here's actually my stitching setup for in here. It's just an old bed tray that flips up, and I can keep patterns and everything on there. I do have a couple floor magnifiers, but this is the one that seems to work when I need to keep the light off a gem. Okay, so let's go see what I found. I went down into the basement, and what I found, I'm not trying to make it match, but I knew I wanted to use kind of this taupey linen. It was actually a linen tablecloth that I had gotten from a thrift store, and I love the way it feels, and I like how it looks, you know, kind of worn and wrinkled. And then I found this long piece that I had used for a different quilt, and somehow I'm going to use this for the front and the back. I think it will be the perfect size. And I'm still trying to decide how I'm going to do it, but I think I'm going to do the linen right in the center with my embroidered words. This piece should be big enough for my almost the whole pillow. If not, then I can add more borders to it to make it big enough. But I think I'll embroider that right on there. And then out of these fabrics, I'm gonna just make a row of 1-inch hexies or some kind of shape, English paper piece that I can border along that. Since I don't really wanna cut this and piece it, I'll just kind of sew that on top. So on one side I'll have Joy, on the other side I will have Pray. They will probably look very similar, and then I can just flip them, and I think they will look great on that white chair. So I will get started and bring you along as I kind of figure it out as I go. So you guys, I just videotaped me tracing this out and talking about my light box and then doing my word joy, and realized that the camera was not on. So I'll just go through this real quick. I used to have an old, the really, thicker, clunkier light boxes, and when I found mine, it was kind of rusty and really old and gross, and I didn't want to use it. So I actually found this really nice thin, I mean, it seems like it's a little fragile. I was going to keep the box and I didn't, so I don't know what brand it is, but I did find it on Amazon, and it just has the little plug-in, and then there is just an off and on here. I do like this one because it has a little bit of a ruler on there, guide. But what I was telling you was that when I cut out my linen, I just kind of went by the size of that half size paper. So I cut my linen a little bit bigger at 6.5 by 9.5. And I just set my wording down, and I taped, using masking tape, my linen down. And then I traced over with this water soluble blue pen. This one is the fine point. It's okay. On this linen, it's kind of hard to write because it just catches in the threads. It would be nice if you could just do a nice flow and get it to come out. I will take this off in a minute and show you how it turned out. The other thing I talked about is this tail on the Y. I kind of cut it short up into here because I'm going to border. When I attach this to the front of my fabric that I did, I'm going to outline or kind of overlay a line of hexes in here. If you've seen my Joyous Love pillow with the bird on it, that's kind of how I did that one. I'm going to do the same way. The front and back are probably going to look pretty much the same just because I have enough fabric to do both sides. So I'm not going to put too much thought into it. But anyway, I'll take this off so you can see how that came out. I'll turn the light off so you can see. There is Pray. And here was my Joy. And I will pick out some stitches and get some things ready to prepare for my hexes. Okay, so I have my piece that says Joy on it, and what I did is I just laid it out to see how I would lay out my hexes to go around the border, and I actually figured out that I need 18 of them to go around. And if you see this spot right up here, I'm going to leave that blank and actually put a bigger yo-yo up there on the top. I don't know if I'm going to do it exactly the same on the other side with this layout, but this is how my border will be laid out for my word Joy. And again, I just kind of laid these out to where they will fit, where I can stitch them edge to edge and they will fit. So let me move this out of the way, and then I will show you how I'm going to do that. So it would be fun if you wanted to use different fabrics, you know, kind of give it a more eclectic look. I am going to just use the same fabric to go all the way around because I'm not thinking about this too hard. I just want to get it done. So this fabric is all just one little print, which will make it really easy. Now, if somebody is horrified that I'm using a Sharpie on here, just look away. But I use it on the back, and once this is cut out, actually you could actually cut so you're cutting the marker right out. But as you will see, you can buy templates that are already made up. You can use a Cricut cutter, several different things. I actually just used Mylar plastic and cut a couple different hexie shapes that are a little bit bigger than my actual 1-inch hexes. This one is a little bit smaller. I kind of like the little bit bigger one, and it's not even exact. It doesn't need to be like the exact same shape, the exact same anything. The reason I like to use these is that if you are going to like fussy cut, like if I wanted that flower on all of them and I had fabric like that, then I could see and line it up. And there's different ways to line it up and make sure that you get it exactly the way you want it so that they all match, but we're not doing that today. So what I do, and this just is a really easy way for me to do it, is I just trace out as many as I need, and I kind of do it so that I can get an easier cut out of one of them, so I can cut straight up that line, and get them done. So I'm going to count out. It doesn't have to be neat, it doesn't have to be perfect. So again, I think I'm doing 18 of these. And I can fit, is that 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm gonna line, you can't see that, I'm gonna line that up to that. Oops. Let's try that again. I'm out of practice. Jim's making lunch, and he's making a lot of noise. So anyway, let me just get one cut out so I can show you then how I do mine. So as you cut those out, and I use a glue-based method. And I didn't grab my glue pen. This goes pretty quick when you're cutting them out all out together, and depending on how many you need. Let me grab my glue pen. I organized everything and now I don't know where anything is. So there's different pens. I use the Fons and Porter, and I will refill that with either, there's a YouTube where it shows where you can fill it with the purple Elmer's glue, and it's a lot less expensive. So that is one thing that you can do. You can see my papers are really worn. I use these probably 2, 3, maybe even 4 times. So there's a certain way that I do mine so that they come out tight and they are easy to pull off. I'll try to get you closer here. There we go. So I do straight across towards me, and then the one away from me, and get those secure. And then I just go around counterclockwise and just do a little bit of the paper, a little bit of the fabric. And it goes really quick. And then when I get ready to pull the papers out, I know some people are worried about what the papers are going to be like to pull out if they're glued in. You can see those edges are nice and pointy and tight. And I will just go and do all those. Then I'm going to get ready and I'll stitch those together, and I'll show you how I do one of those. And then I'll just make my whole little row all the way around. Look how cute that little flower turned out just right there. So they'll all be different, and it will be really fun to see how they stitch together. So I have a couple of these ready to go. So I'll show you what I'm going to do. You want to line them up, edge to edge, corner to corner. And I know this sounds weird, but I don't put a knot in mine. What I do, and I'm using a fine pointy needle. I really can't tell you which one it is. I have so many and they're all mixed up. I will tell you that I'm using a gray cotton thread. It's kind of a darker gray so that it will blend with anything. And what I'm going to do is I am going to, now there are ways to make a knot and hide it up underneath like this seam here. I have done that before, but what I found is I kind of stick my needle right in the edges there. I pull my thread until I can lay it across the top. And then as I catch my little edges, you're just going to skim the top and grab some little threads on the very edge. As I do that, I'm stitching right over my little tail of a thread, and I don't need a knot. So I'm going right next to one stitch right next to the other. There's my tail that popped up. I'm going to hold it back down. You can clip these together. My hands are so big and these aren't that big, the 1 inch. When I've worked on larger hexies or different shape, I have used those little clips to clip them together. I tend to do a really like too long a piece of thread, and it can get tangled. I don't know what to say about that. I just have a bad habit of doing that. Anyway, I hope you can see that. I am just still stitching, just grabbing like just a little bite, and I'm still stitching right over that long tail where I didn't even put a knot. And I am just going to go all the way down. This, you know, I like to embroider. I love to cross stitch, just all kinds of different sewing techniques. This one is pretty mindless, where if I have to sit and stitch at night and I don't have good lighting, like for cross stitch, I have good lighting, but it's whether or not it's bothering somebody else in the same room. This is a good thing to do, where once you get the feel of it and you can feel where you're poking, I guess I don't need as good of a light or as strong as a magnifier. There's my first knot. Just gonna untangle my string a little bit. Anyway, then I'm gonna go all the way down to the end. I've caught that tail pretty much the whole way. I'm just gonna let my needle dangle and let that spin out. When I get done with this, because it's just kind of a straight shot until I get ready to lay them out around my embroidered word, and they'll actually start taking shape, I'm just going to stitch them back to back like this in a line, where some of them you're actually stitching into like a grandma's hexie garden shape, garden flower. This is just going to be kind of in a straight row until I get to the corners where I'm going to turn when I lay them out to border my word joy. I'm almost to the end, and then I'm just going to show you if I were going to continue and not do these in a straight line, if I was going to do some kind of actual hexie flower or start to join them. I hope you can see this. So as I'm getting to the edge, I start tucking, and if your corners aren't matching exactly, what I do is stick through one corner and then the other, and you can end up pulling them together to match. And then just do a couple stitches. I will loop it through and tie that off. Now, if I was going to cut this off, I would back down a couple and then cut it off down in here so you can't see a tail on the end. And if I was going to continue, what I would do, if you can see, you really almost can't see the gray threads, I hope, on my stitching. From that side you can. If I was going to continue and you wanted to do like a hexie flower shape, then you would stick it in like that. I would start in the corner going this way. It doesn't really matter if you stitch from right to left or left to right. I don't know what is the proper way. I'm right-handed. I think I stitch backwards a lot of times when I'm doing things. I don't know. So whatever's comfortable for you, it really doesn't matter. Now I'm not going to do that. I am going to back down and go a couple stitches back and then tie it off on itself, just in a couple little knots, because I'm going to continue going in a line and just stitch these together so that they can border my word joy. So I would start the next one right here, just the same way I did, going corner to corner. I'm only using a single strand. I pulled that tail over and I'm going to hang on to it, and I'm actually slipping underneath the end of it there, and then as I stitch down, I'm catching underneath that tail with my threads, and my top stitches will go right over that and secure it down. Now if you wanted to, you could do a little secure stitch at the end where you loop it through and make a little knot. So I would continue down on that one, and I'm going to continue on those. I'm going to get my joy stitched out. I don't know where my joy went. Here it is. I think I'm going to use a dark brown, almost like a charcoal brown. And then when those are done, they will be laid out and bordering this. So for now, I'm going to stop on the hexies, and I'm actually going to go over. I've shown you before how to do the yo-yos, but I've got my yo-yo template ready. So let's do that as well. So on the clover templates, there are a lot of different sizes. You know what? I think I'm just going to grab the whole basket to show you. I'm also grabbing another needle. So on the yo-yos for the clover templates, I used to be very, very fussy about it and only did them by hand, tracing my own, because, you know, that's the way my gram taught me how to do it. But once I tried it with the clover templates, it was all over with for me. They're so easy and nice to use. So these are all the different sizes. I didn't mean to do this, but I guess I could make this a little bit longer, as long as we're talking about this and I've got them all out. I can show you what sizes these turn out to be. Close to it anyway. Okay. So I guess we got off on a little yo-yo track here. So this little blue one is 20 millimeters, and it will say right on the back here. That turns out to be that size. How cute is that? And that actually is about 1 inch wide, across the next size. And when I get to cutting my other one out, I'll show you how these work. This one is a 30 millimeter, and this is probably the most common size. Turns out to be that big, which is about 1.75 inches. I have a couple of each. Actually, I was wrong. This, well, I might take that back. You know what, I'm wrong. I thought this was the most common size, but that seems bigger. This one is a 45 millimeter. And that is the size that turns out to be. I do have a couple odd shapes, a heart and an oval. I don't have any made up that I still have here to show you. This is the 60 millimeter size, and I do not have one of the largest to show you, the 90 millimeter. So today, right now, for my little pillow, I have to get all these back out of the way. I don't know what I did with my needle. I'll find it. So this one is the 60 millimeter that we're gonna do. So I just cut a piece of fabric out where I could see that all my edges, I have a, you know, a good inch or so outside. Now when you line this up, there's these little notches, those little knobs on here. And then there's the little straight line on the yo-yo, on the, I don't know what you want to call that. That has to line up, and when you snap this in with all the fabric in, it will line up because you want those holes to line up. If you don't get it lined up, it's not going to snap in right, and then your holes will be covered up and your needle won't be able to go through. So you want to put your right side face down, as this is sitting kind of up in a little bowl shape. I like to get one of these little notches facing me. Just kind of center that where you know all the edges are going to catch. I'm going to find my little line that I need to line up. I think I'll try to do this towards you so you can see it. So there's the notch, and there's the line that's going to match up. I have to do that underneath the fabric. I'm going to lay all this out, and I'm going to snap that in. And you can feel it snap in. If there's anything that's kind of folded in there, you can straighten out your edges. Pull it tight. That's what it's going to look like. And then I kind of use this edge as a guideline to cut around. If you can see, I'm cutting and leaving just a little bit, just like that. And I'm going to cut all the way around. Now when I do my yo-yos, I do use a double strand of thread because I want it to be nice and secure and tight. So this is going to be the yo-yo that I'm going to use at the top of where those hexies are going to go. So when I do this, I usually do like almost 2 arms length, because again, I'm going to make it a double thread. And then you can just make it like a little quilter's knot. I should probably put my outline on, and then I could see better. Maybe you guys could see better. So I'll do a little knot here. This is the way my Graham taught me. Anyway, I've been trying to hide it, but if you guys see it, it's kind of gross. I got burned really bad at work with Campbell's tomato soup out of the microwave. And it's healing up nicely, but it looks gross. Anyway, I kind of do, I don't know, I kind of do 5 to 7 or 9 depending on how big I want my knot. But I just hold it and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Hold that tight, and I'm going to pull the needle through all the way down to the end. Sometimes it gets a nice little knot in it, and sometimes it's a mess, sometimes it's not. I can just clip. I'm going to clip my little tails off, and I have a nice knot. Okay, so when you do the yo-yo, I kind of mark where that millimeter size is just with a Sharpie, because then I know where I'm going to start and stop. I think in the directions it will tell you to start like here and then stop here. I always go in to the very last one that I stopped in or started in. Otherwise, I feel like when you gather it together, there's a gap. So that's totally up to you. But you want to start, I hold mine this way, and I hold my thumb, and I go around and grab and hold the fabric down so that I know I'm catching it as I'm stitching. So you want to you're going to use these little smiles as a guide. So I'm going to come up. I don't want my thread to get tangled. I'm going to come up, and then I'm making sure that my thumb is holding that fabric down, and I'm going to come back down in that little smile. See? That way, when you take this out, if you don't do it that way, if you come up and over, then you're going to sew it to your template, and you don't want to do that. So as I move around, I just grab my thumb and hold that fabric down. I'm going to come up the smile and back down the smile. Move over, holding my fabric down, up. I taught Reed, and Hadley already knows how to do yo-yos. I had Reed doing them in June, his first yo-yo, my grandson, he's 4, and he got it right away. He would say up and down, up and down. I actually put a picture of them on Instagram with their first yo-yos. So what I do is they both have a jar of yo-yos, and when I think about it, I'll just stick some in the mail, because I don't want them to think that it's all about just getting, you know, money or something in the mail from grandma. So I send them yo-yos that they can collect. So I'm going all the way around. Now I make my, with the yo-yos, you do have to make your thread long enough to fit around the whole yo-yo. I can get a couple yo-yos out of one strand of string that I cut, but it starts to get a little bit tight. And you don't want to use too long of a needle, otherwise at the very end, if you're running out of thread, you're really struggling to get that long needle up and down if you don't have that much thread to pull away from. Okay, coming back up and down, we're going all the way around. I'm just making sure that I'm catching all my edges are caught with the thread. So I'm just holding that down with my thumb. And as you can see, as my thread is getting shorter, I will have enough room to finish. But you could see if it was a lot shorter, I would be really cutting it tight to fit my needle up and down. So there would be my last one, because I started here. But I'm going to finish there, and then I'm going to come up one more time and actually finish in the one that I started. So you want to finish to the back. This hole is here so that you can actually punch that out and get this back part taken away. and then you will be able to just release that and pull that. Now you can start pulling and gathering, and while you do that, you just want to start, it's almost like a little shower cap, you want to just start turning the edges in. I kind of do use my finger as a little guide to keep it, and as I get it pretty close, you can start just playing with it. I think that's one of the best part of making these, is just playing with them. Now, if you were going to make something out of yo-yos, when you know I got tangled the very last second here. Let me see if I can get that undone. If you're going to make yo-yos where you were going to, you know, stitch them together, and you're going to be able to see the back, I wouldn't do this. But what I like to do, because a lot of my yo-yos I use on pillows or something like that, is instead of, you know, you could bring it through and knot it off and cut it off here, but a lot of times you either see the knot or the tails. I like to pull it, put the needle down through the middle, pull it through to the back, and you can either leave your yo-yo open like that. I don't know why, but I tend to pull mine really tight so that they look like that. And then on the back, I will loop it through on itself and do a couple little knots, and that will secure it. Now, if I know what I'm going to stitch this on, like when I did Hadley's pillow, I will grab that for you. When I did Hadley's pillow, I knew I was going to stitch it on right away, so I didn't cut this off. I placed that there, and then your thread is ready to go to start stitching all the way around. And then I don't have to worry about tying another knot or securing that. So that is my yo-yo that I will use. That I'm going to kind of use right up in the middle of my joy when I get that embroidered. And I'm just going to keep continuing along.